Hello, everyone.
Questions? Prime Minister, first of all, this inquiry that starts today, 65 witnesses over 30 days, when it's all wrapped up and the Commissioner, if he finds that there was no justification for the federal government to invoke the Emergencies Act, should there be consequences for the federal government, including your resignation?
But we knew from the very beginning that invoking the Emergencies Act is a big step. It had never been done before, but given these unprecedented illegal protests, we needed to take action. We took it in a way that was measured, that was responsible, that was time limited, and we knew full well that there needed to be a public inquiry. Canadians need that level of transparency and accountability, and that's why we launched this inquiry. That's why I'm so happy to be, why I offered from the beginning to be part of appearing at this commission, and we're going to make sure that Canadians see the situation we were facing and how the tools we used were appropriate.
Sure, but if it's found that there was no justification for it, again, what should the consequences be for that?
I think the important thing is for Canadians to understand the situation we were in and the choices we make. We didn't enter into using the Emergencies Act lightly. We used it with a sense of it was the necessary tool at the time. We used it in a way that was measured and proportionate, and we're really pleased that the Commission is going to be able to hear from all these witnesses, and that was why I offered to appear.
In Hamilton, we recently had a hate crime take place on the campaign trail, and people locally have already been pushing for Bill C-229, a private member's bill that would codify hate symbols like flags, and there was a Confederate flag flying at a house not too long ago that created a stir. And I just wonder, how much support does that bill have from you, and is that a priority for you? If so, how much?
We have demonstrated as a government how important it is to move forward with a full anti-racism strategy, to move forward to push back against this rise in intolerance we're seeing. Unfortunately, whether it's anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, anti-black racism, anti-Asian racism, anti-LGBTQ rhetoric, there is a range of intolerance that is rising across the country, perhaps linked with the pandemic, perhaps linked with a rise in populism. We need to use all the tools we can to push back on it, and that's who Canadians are. We're a country that understands that differences can and must be a source of richness, of strength, and that's what we will always stand for.
So you do support that bill? Or?
We're going to continue to look at every way that makes a difference in moving forward to push back against racism and intolerance.
Prime Minister, Canada's ambassador to the U.S., Kirsten Hillman, says the U.S. cross-border nexus and trusted traveler program is being held hostage by the U.S. effort to renegotiate this 20-year-old deal. Beyond strong words, what is your government doing to resolve the impasse? Ruling out allowing U.S. protection offers to carry firearms and concealed?
We are engaging almost every day with our American counterparts to ensure the smooth flow of goods and services and people across our border. We have the longest shared border in the world that is extraordinarily important for both of our economies. And we're going to continue to work with them on ways to make it smoother and more effective for people to work on both sides of the border. That's why the Trusted Traveler Program, like Nexus, is so important, why we're so eager to get it rolling again.
Prime Minister, the ArriveCan app, this report today that the cost of the app is between $29 and $54 million to the federal government. Now, these companies in Toronto say they could have done it for $1 million, and this is gross overspending. How do you defend that kind of overspending? Every
step of the way, we put safety of Canadians first throughout the pandemic. We made sure that we were creating the tools rapidly in an unprecedented situation to keep Canadians safe. If we think back to the pressures and the challenges we were facing as a country, whether it was at the borders, whether it was on managing this pandemic here in our communities, we needed to use the tools we can. I can assure you that the current contract for ArriveCan was got at in a competitive process, and we're going to continue to be responsible in the way that we ensure the best possible protection for Canadians.
Next question is the last.
Alberta and Saskatchewan are both looking for ways to boost or protect their provincial powers. They point to Quebec as an example of how that would work. What do you say to premiers who believe you are wading into their jurisdiction too often?
My focus is what it has always been, on working with premiers across the country to deliver the best results for Canadians in their priorities, whether it's the rising cost of living, whether it's creating good jobs while we fight climate change, which is what we're seeing today, whether we work to keep our communities safe or push back against intolerance. I'm always there to work on the priorities that Albertans and Saskatchewanians and people right across the country are facing. We're there to work in partnership on the priorities of citizens across the country. We'll continue to do that.
Hi guys, my boss